Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. If you are managing supply chains anywhere across the Middle East and North Africa, you know for a fact that finding a real edge in such a volatile market is just absolutely crucial. So today, we're unpacking some truly fascinating source material. It's basically a massive, actually, scratch that, it's the ultimate 2026 playbook for slashing your logistics costs across the MENA region using the Greater Arab Free Trade Area, or GAFTA. Okay, let's dive right into this because leveraging this regional agreement properly can cut your multi-country logistics and tariff expenses by a massive 15 to 25%. I mean, just think about that for a second. What does dropping your landed costs by literally a quarter do to your pricing power against international competitors? Lower barriers equal faster turnover, much stronger margins, and honestly, incredible resilience against sudden supply chain shocks. So, to map this all out, we're going to cover 5 key areas today: the GFT trade advantage, mastering the rules of origin, strategic supply chain plays, avoiding costly trade traps, and finally, winning with digital trade. Let's kick things off with part 1, the GAFTA trade advantage, lower barriers, stronger margins. And this brilliantly illustrates the current 18-country terrain. In 2026, resilient sourcing is more crucial than ever, right? GAFTA is this massive, zero-tariff preferential trade zone, and it basically breaks down into 3 distinct operational realities. First, you've got the GCC. Think Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Oman. They have their own customs union with a unified 5% external tariff and incredibly frictionless internal transfers, serving as a primary bridge to the wider Arab world. Then you look at the Levant, with key players like Iraq and Jordan. These are high-volume destinations and critical overland transit and manufacturing hubs. And finally, North Africa, Egypt, Morocco. These are absolute industrial powerhouses that directly plug your supply chain right into Mediterranean trade routes. Moving right along to Section 2, Mastering Rules of Origin, the gatekeepers of duty-free trade. So here is the reality check. 0% preferential tariffs are never just handed out unconditionally. They're specifically designed to stop third-country bypasses, like a manufacturer from Asia or Europe just using a member state as a quick transit point. To get the GAFTA preference, you have to hit one of 2 criteria. First is wholly obtained. Super straightforward. It means the good is 100% domestic, no foreign inputs whatsoever. We're talking minerals pulled straight from Saudi soil or crops grown in Egypt. But if you're manufacturing something using foreign raw materials, you fall under the second criteria, substantial transformation. Your imported materials need to undergo intensive local processing that fundamentally changes what they are. Now, what's really interesting about this is how you actually measure that transformation. It all comes down to the 40% value-added rule. At least 40% of the final free on-board price of your product has to come from local materials, domestic labor, manufacturing overhead, or local energy costs. To put that into perspective, let's say you're exporting an industrial pump priced at $1,000. To legally secure that Arab certificate of origin, you have to prove that at least $400 of that value was generated locally. That leaves a maximum allowable limit of 60% for your foreign materials. Executing this day-to-day is basically a simple 4-step flow. Number 1, determine your product's eligibility against those origin rules. Number 2, obtain the official Arab certificate of origin from an authorized Chamber of Commerce. Number 3, declare it properly by putting the exact right exemption codes into the destination country's digital customs system. And 4, clear customs and move your cargo, hopefully using green channels for a much faster release. Let's move to Section 3 and see how this builds into strategic supply chain plays for optimizing profitability. If you want to turn these rules into an unassailable competitive edge, you need to know about diagonal accumulation. This rule is literally a secret weapon. It allows raw materials or components originating from any GAFTA member state to be counted as 100% local content in another member state. So imagine a UAE firm assembling complex machinery. If they bring in specialized aluminum housings from Egypt and electronic controllers from Jordan, guess what? Those parts are treated as domestic content on the UAE factory floor. When that finished machine ships to Saudi Arabia, it effortlessly crushes that 40% threshold. You've just engineered a totally optimized zero-tariff supply chain. All right, but we need to talk about part 4, avoiding costly trade traps and navigating the friction points. Look, assuming this treaty works perfectly on paper every time is a fast track to getting your containers permanently stranded at the border. You have to watch out for the single largest financial blind spot for traders, the free trade zone trap. So many companies set up in world-class free zones like Jebel Ali or down in Oman and just assume they automatically get GFTA zero tariff benefits. No way, they do not.
Free zones operate outside the domestic customs territory, meaning those goods are excluded from GFT or privileges. To get the zero tariff benefits, the transformation usually has to happen on the mainland. Miss that detail, and your profit margins vanish at the destination port.
We also have to talk about the clash between beautiful digital systems and the actual reality on the ground. Yes, advanced platforms like Bayon 2.0 or AS Kata give you great automated digital uploads, but please don't fall for the trap of going fully paperless. When you hit volatile borders, especially transit corridors in Iraq or certain Egyptian ports, local customs officers are absolutely going to demand the physical Arab certificate of origin. In fact, here is a direct warning straight from the source material. To prevent costly demurrage and administrative delays, never rely solely on digital approvals. Always ensure the physical, original stamped documents are in the hands of your transit driver. At the end of the day, that physical wet ink signature is what protects your cash flow. Also, keep in mind that a 0% tariff means absolutely nothing if your shipment hits a non-tariff barrier. You still have to clear highly technical compliance gates. Going to Saudi Arabia? You have to pass the Sabre platform's strict rules. Entering Egypt, you're dealing with the rigid advanced cargo information regulations of NAFEZA. Plus, countries have negative lists shielding their own local infant industries from competition. Compliance is everything. Which leads us perfectly into Section 5, Winning with Digital Trade, Execution and Compliance. The smartest operators out there use digital tolls as a strategic shield against all this regional bureaucracy. Here is the blueprint you need to follow today. First, audit your trade lanes and deploy real digital compliance infrastructure. Seriously, stop managing this on manual spreadsheets. Second, run low-risk phase testing. Don't risk a massive shipment until you've proven the route works. Third, build audit-ready digital records to survive any retroactive customs audits. And finally, leverage B2B ecosystems. The source explicitly highlights platforms like Tendify.net for accessing interactive duty calculators and connecting instantly with verified on-the-ground customs brokers. So the crucial point is this. When you pair GAFTA's duty-free rules with 2026's massive physical infrastructure booms, you get a wild multiplier effect. Imagine tying zero-tariff privileges with something like Iraq's new high-speed development road corridor. Moving freight from the Persian Gulf up through the Levant suddenly becomes exponentially faster and cheaper. It's a total game-changer. So, as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this one provocative question. Are you leaving 25% of your margins at the border? Relying on reactive logistics just isn't going to cut it anymore. By executing a digitally integrated GFTA strategy, you can transform all these regional barriers into a highly predictable, highly profitable highway of opportunity. It's time to audit those lanes and capture what's yours. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will see you next time.